Hello everyone, welcome to the Grow Your Future podcast. My name is Zah Azmi and I'm joined by my very good friend, Sam Eljaban. How are you?
Good, Zah, how you doing?
Very well,
No burn today, what happened?
I thought I'd give you a rap because you were, I guess, a co-author in my book that we are talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting podcast because it's probably the most exciting podcast for me because we're finally releasing my book.
Yep.
FU Property.
Amazing.
Build a property portfolio that empowers you to tell any individual or organization to go fuck themselves. Isn't it a great cover?
It's a very powerful cover, very powerful.
For you guys watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see that. And this is going to get released next Monday, so 1st of August. So this picture actually was taken by my wife, Jade, on an iPhone.
Oh, no way.
Can you believe it?
How was that?
On an iPhone.
No pro photography needed.
No, and that's a really good, I guess, example of showing you that you don't need professional photographers or videographers to take good content. You can take photos like that.
You can be very resourceful
Yeah.
if you need to be and want to be.
Yeah, and you should definitely judge a book by its cover because this cover is amazing.
It's very good.
Right?
Did you just come back from the gym?
Yeah, I did 100 push-ups before we took that photo. But very exciting, and we're so pumped to release this book, and I can finally put it on my bookshelf. I had a space.
Number one spot.
I've had a space for it the whole time. But mate, we're super excited to actually go through the book in this episode, and we want to talk about, I guess, each chapter and a little bit about. Let's just start maybe with why I wrote the book. Right, I wrote it in lockdown.
Yep.
So I actually wrote 2 books in lockdown, and because we couldn't do anything, we couldn't trade or anything like that, I thought it was a perfect time. I had the 2 books written. I think they were like 70,000 words each.
Wow.
And then Jade was like, we got to get this out to some publishers, right? And Jade's going, hey, Mr. Australian publisher, number 1, number 2, number 3, we just got all declined by, I think it ended up being 42 publishers in total.
Yeah.
And we almost gave up, right? And we were like, oh, wow, maybe we just not release the book, right? Because if no one's going to publish it. Now, I wasn't interested in self-publishing or anything like that.
Yep.
And then, as you know, we went to the United States, and Jade was like, you know what, let's just try it. You know, there's publishers all over the world. And then Forbes picked it up.
Massive. Not just anyone too. That's big time,
and they loved the story, and they were all for it. And I think if you look at the books that I enjoy and that what you enjoy as well, Sam, I've noticed is they're not really from Australian authors or publishers, right? I enjoy Australian published books, but not as much as I enjoy, I think, books from the States, because I feel like they're a little bit more exciting. Where Australians, I feel like, are a little bit more conservative with their approach, especially when it comes to property.
It's a bit vanilla. And I think a good lesson about that and you continuing to knock on doors is keep knocking on doors. If you've got an idea or whatever it is, a book, don't just stop because someone closes a door on you. Because the next door could be Forbes. Yeah. It could be in the stars, you know. So very good lesson. Well, maybe, you know what I think may have sold it, Sam, is the foreword that you wrote for it, right? So for our listeners, Sam wrote the foreword, which I think it was a total of a page and a half or something like that, said some very kind words about my work. And I think they probably just read that and went, yep, sold, right? Done. We need this. No, it was a pleasure contributing to the book. And, you've been a family friend of ours for a long time. And it was very nice to see how far you've come from back in Henry Kendall days. I've seen you go through all your ups and downs in business, different entrepreneurial activities and all that kind of thing. But I think you've found your calling. And it's not ripping Sam on podcasts, although you're very good at it. And I actually look forward to them. But no, I think helping people try and achieve greater in their life. You've helped me a lot personally over the years. And I can see through your work you help a lot of people. Not just in property, but in life. And you show people a path and you actually motivate them to travel down that path. It's not easy. a lot of people won't do it, but at least the ones that do, look back and are very grateful. Like myself.
It's hard, right, Sam?
Oh,
and I deal with it, we deal with it every single day, where, especially with first-time investors, where
it's the hardest.
Parting with their hard-earned cash. Like I had a client come in yesterday, first-time investor. He's saved 100 grand. He's changed his mind about 1,000 times. He's put so many holding deposits on properties and then pulled out. And I said to him, I go, I get it.
Yeah.
Saving that 100 grand, it took you forever. It's probably taken you 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And to part with it is very, very difficult. But you have to do something. And I'm a great example of being able to succeed at that because, back in when I bought my first property, I had to save $70,000 from 3 different jobs. And to part with that $70,000 back then was a lot of money for me. But I'm so glad I did it. I bought a place for $340,000. Now I still own that property. It's worth $1.2 million. And it helped me, tap into equity so I could buy more and more and more and more. And look, you never look back, you go back to when you bought your first property, how hard it was, right? And what we had to do to coach you through it.
I was a punish.
Yeah, you were. You were one of those punished clients that just wouldn't take action. But then when you finally did, it was hard, admittedly, right? But it changed your life. Like it literally changes your life.
Like everything in life, the first thing you do is usually hardest. Learning to drive, the first time you get in a car is hard. It's the same with property, everything else you do for the first time. You're gonna have heaps of nerves, you're gonna have a lot of doubts about whether it's the right thing to do or not. But the earlier you do it, the better off you're gonna be.
And that's why I wanted to write the book, right? And the book has a lot of my personal stories in there. It talks about where I came from, what my first jobs were and all of that sort of thing. And, it shows people that, like, I'm a real person. A lot of people see now the result and they think that it just happens overnight. I want people to understand that this book was actually handwritten by me. You know what I mean? Like it's all me. It's my story. And that's really important for people to see because the mass population, they come from nothing. And they need to understand there is a way out. And it's not going to take them 30, 40, 50 years. It can take them 10 to 15 years. But they have to put in the work, right? They have to get educated. And they have to, I guess, believe that it's going to work. And I think that's one of the things that holds people back. They don't believe. And I think that's my role in this whole thing is to tell people, hey, look, I've done it, but at the same time, I need to teach you to believe in the strategy and push forward with it.
Nothing worth having comes easy.
No.
So you're going to have to sacrifice.
Well, it's like our good mate Andrew Tate, right? He talks about having a six-pack. If having a six-pack came easy, no one would value it and look at it as sexy, right? But because it takes 6-12 months to acquire and through so much hard work and dedication, all of a sudden, there's value on it, right? It's the same with a property portfolio.
Same principles.
It's fucking hard.
Exactly
we get it.
Same.
You know what I mean? We get people all the time like calling us, like existing clients saying, oh, interest rates are up, the cash flow's no good. I go, yeah, it's not meant to be fucking easy. You're right? It's meant to be hard. So you can get through this. And if you hold on, you'll get rewarded on the back end.
Exactly. Stick to the plan. That's what you got to do. Stick to the plan.
So let's, what are we talking about today? Oh, we're going to go through the chapters, right? Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through the chapters. We'll talk briefly about them, but we don't want to give too much away, right? Because we want people to read the book, right? And buy the fucking book too, Like, don't just wait for me to tell you the story. But I'm sure you're going to really enjoy it. So let's start with, do you want to be wealthy or rich?
Chapter 1.
So it's the difference between wealthy and rich, right?
So what is the difference between wealthy and rich?
Well, people think it's the same thing, right? Wealthy is, having, or let's start with rich. Rich really is having money today, right? Having disposable income. You can buy things today. Maybe you can afford to go on a holiday. You can eat at a fancier restaurant. You can buy a nicer car. All of those things, like a lot of people appear to be rich. But wealth is long-term. Wealth is what you can pass on to the next generation. Wealth is more than being rich, right? It's not about having $1 million in the bank. It's about having 10 million working for you in assets that going to give you that return over the long term, giving you the tax deductions that help you in times of need, right? When you need to, like, for example, when people need to write a check for 100 Gs, 200 Gs, most of the time, they're not really going to have that just lying around sitting in the bank, but they might be able to sell an asset, pay tax on it, and then write the check.
I see, you can boil it down. I've found when I look at rich and wealthy people, the rich are usually loud. And when I say loud, I mean they
Lebos.
make it. Lebos, come to the restaurant. They have every designer brand on. They might drive the latest car. They live in a nice suburb, blah, blah, blah. But they make it very well known that they have money. And
just go down to Crown Casino on the weekends.
Exactly. Everyone's rich there, but
there.
they're probably poor in the bank account, but they look rich.
Yeah.
So they're usually loud or louder than wealthy people. And wealthy people are usually quiet. You often don't know who the millionaires are, billionaires are. They're more subdued. And I think the difference comes between the rich will have the money, but the wealthy have the time. So it's different. I think the wealthier you get, so you pass from rich to wealthy, the wealthier guys have a lot of time. Where the rich guys don't, they're working to make the money. They don't have the time.
And this is what I talk about in my book, right? One of my first jobs was working in King's Cross, and there were two business partners that owned the same business. One was very low key, never drank, when he was out, never partied. He was just all business, right? And he was, he never wore any designer shit, like nothing, right? Then the other guy was super flashy, always around heaps of women, wearing designer stuff. Like it was just
loud.
He was very loud, right? And look, they were both great guys to learn from. But I knew who I wanted to emulate, right? The guy who was wealthy was much more calm and controlled, and ended up having a bigger net worth and a better lifestyle. The guy who was loud and showy, he eventually went bankrupt, right? Because he probably mismanaged his finances and the lifestyle caught up with him. So I saw it very, very early. And it's really easy when you're young, especially when you're like in your early 20s, or even when you're a teenager, to see people who are rich and aspire to be like them. And that's where like I sort of have to play it a little bit smart with the way we market, and my personal brand is where I don't want to come across as that guy that has too much of the toys, right? But at the same time, I need a little bit of that so people listen to me. And the young people are attracted to that. But what they need to know is that's not the main goal, right? Like if you're thinking about, buying designer items or the next car you want to drive and all of that sort of shit, you're not thinking big enough. You need to be thinking about long-term wealth, because if you're 20 years old right now, it doesn't matter what happens. You're going to be 40, 45. You're going to be 50 one day. And you're always going to look back and go, fuck, I could have done more, right? Because that's when the wealth matters. When you're 40 plus years old, that's when the wealth really, really matters. Because what is it that you want, Sam? Time.
Time, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's when you want time with your kids. That's when you want time with your family. That's when you want to be able to write the $100,000 checks and not go, fuck, I've got to go to work and actually earn that money. Because you've got it in the bank. You've got it through assets. You've got it through refinancing equity. Right? And that's what a lot of people fail to see in their 20s and 30s, because they're chasing the wrong things.
And I think that first chapter opening up is really good, because I think it shows how you have to really be mature. It's about being immature and mature with money, really. If you're mature with money, you're on that path to get the time back and accumulate wealth over time. If you're immature, you're going to buy the stupid stuff to impress the other people and all that kind of thing. So it's sort of the psychology of how you think with money as well.
I think you need to find a good balance, right? Like, because I've got caught up in that in my 20s as well, where you think, okay, if I have all of these, little status symbols, it's going to put me ahead socially. I'm going to get ahead maybe in business, all of that sort of thing. But when I look back on it, and this is what I try and tell the younger generation, when I look back on it, I go, fuck, it was a waste of money. Like, you actually don't need that stuff.
I remember when you first bought your first supercar. And after you bought it, you're like, fuck, I don't want this car anymore.
It didn't really do it for me. You know what I mean? I actually thought I was going to be so happy when I achieved that. So that was back in, I think it was 2014, 15, I bought it, right? And I thought, wow, I've made it, right? But everybody just ends up hating you. They just go, "You're an idiot," right? Like you actually don't get treated with respect. I get treated with more respect in my pickup truck, right? So, and it didn't make me happy. Like, forget about the lack of respect. Yeah. It just did not make me happy, like I thought it would, right? What really made me happy was building wealth, right? Buying more property. Seeing my capital turn from $150,000 into $300,000 and then into $600,000, that gave me a sense of security. And that's what wealth is. Wealth gives you security, right? Where rich is very short term. So, you know, like I think a lot of people on higher-ish incomes, what happens is their lifestyle goes up as well. And their wealth position doesn't change.
Yeah. No, it's a great opening chapter. I think it explains where you want to be heading, like your path. It's not the glitz and glamour, it's actually time, getting your time back and having a better life.
And there's some really good examples in the book, right, of my personal situation, of how I view things. And this is why I actually say that everybody's got a book in them, because everyone has different experiences through life. And I really didn't want to make this book about just a generic property investment book, because there's fucking heaps, man. There's so many. Like, you actually don't even need to read books anymore. You can just jump on YouTube or podcasts like this and you can learn about this stuff, right? But I really wanted to show my view on the world from when I was younger. And I guess people who will be reading it will be in their maybe 20s as well, of thinking, hey, like I know someone like that as well. Like I can resonate with that. Yeah, I thought that, that rich guy was the guy I should have aspired to look up to. And I think that was the biggest takeaway from that chapter is figure out who you want to look up to and make sure they're the right one. Because back in the day, I used to look up to all of these plastic gangsters, and now I look at them and think, why the fuck did I look up to them for? You know what I mean? Like you think they're the people you should be looking up to. So that's where you've got to be really, really careful with who your network is, what environment you're in. Like I was stuck in the middle of King's Cross, Sam. Do you know what I mean? Like, who do I have to look up to? Strip club owners, brothel owners. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying they're bad people, right? But are they the people that I should be looking up to? Or should I be looking up to fucking businessmen, right? Looking up to people who own charities, like start thinking bigger.
It's very important who you actually follow and listen to. That's the gist of it. So if you can take that away from that chapter, you're doing well. Yeah.
We're not going to reveal any more about that. No. Okay, earn, store, and multiply.
I actually love this chapter. That's really down my alley. I like really what you explore here is financial literacy, which isn't taught in school. You sort of don't even learn it unless you actually actively read about it in our world, which is a shame because it's one of the most important things you should learn about, money, how it works.
Why do you think it's not taught in schools?
So we become obedient taxpayers, really.
The matrix.
Effectively, to enter the matrix, don't question things, just go about your day, pay your taxes, get a big mortgage and be stuck. Stuck people or people under pressure will listen. If you have threats from government or paying your taxes or a big mortgage, you're scared. You'll comply. It's been shown throughout history that systems are built like that for compliance. So really, you're not taught this in school, which is probably done on purpose. And unless you get exposure to it and you do it yourself and go and actively look for these snippets of information, you're not really going to understand how money works, which you do explore very, very well different topics.
Well, there's 3 points there, right? Earn, so basically going to work or running a business and getting an income. I guess storing money is just like saving money and then multiplying it. So
sort of the process you need to go through.
Those 3 things, when you think about it, are so important to just personal financial education, but not one of those things we're taught in school.
No. We're taught to earn. That was it. We're not really taught to store.
I believe we were just taught to pay tax, to be honest with you. I really, truly believe they don't give a fuck about how much you earn as long as you pay the tax. Right?
And that's why they funnel you into being an employee. You don't have a choice. They take your tax.
Exactly. And they don't even tell you how to claw that tax back, right? No. So when you think about it, like, let's say you get taxed at 40%, and you could easily say 40% because we're paying taxes on everything that we buy, right?
Yeah.
So let's say at 40% on the 40 cents on the dollar, it leaves you with 60 cents on a dollar. Like you're not taught how to grow that, right?
Yeah.
You're just taught to, hey, we just want that 40 cents, right? And you go fuck off and do it again next week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But they're sneaky about it because they take it without you knowing.
They take it straight away.
Sometimes people don't even know.
They take it straight away. And this is where people fail to go, okay, I'm giving 40% of 40 cents on the dollar to the ATO, right? Mandatory. Every single week or every fortnight when I get paid. But I'm not paying myself 40%.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not paying myself that 60%. And people think, oh, well, yeah, I'm paying it myself that because I get it and I get to spend it. Yeah, but you're not storing it, right? And this is where you need to store that other 40%, maybe live off the 20%. That adds up to 100%. Yep. So then what you want to do is go, okay, 40% goes to the ATO. You can't really do anything about it. But then 40% goes to my storage. That goes towards my investments. And one day maybe I'll buy a property and where you multiply it is through property because of leverage, right?
Yep.
But where people fail is not the earning point because everybody needs to earn to make a living. Everybody needs to pay the tax because it's mandatory, right? But not everybody stores that 40% to go towards investments, and that's where I think they fail.
Massively. I think we talk to a lot of people in both our course of business, daily business, and we do tend to find that people might be in their early 30s, but they have nothing behind them, not even cash. You know, a lot of people do spend a lot of their money. They don't think about the future. They're just not savvy with money, which is a shame because, you know, the later you address that in your life, the further and further behind you're going to get. And you're going to be very reliant on the government again in old age, which is a big problem.
Yeah, and that's you know, slowly diminishing in value now in terms of pensions and all of that sort of thing. But if you're in your early 30s and you know you can't write a check for say 10 grand, like there's something wrong, right? You haven't done enough work in your 20s. So what you need to do is you probably need to work 10 times as harder as someone who put away in their early 20s. So I think really focusing on obviously earning as much income as you can, as much as you can, but then storing as much as you can away as well. So I truly believe your 20s and 30s should be earning as high income as possible, but living as frugally as possible, right? Frugality, after a while, if you've done the work, will go out the window. So for example, now I'm not really that frugal with the way I live. Like I do whatever I want, but it's not always been the case, Sam. Like I had to live quite frugally for the majority of my 30s. You know what I mean? Like I was 35 and I was still driving a Toyota. You know what I mean? Like but I had millions in the bank because I was trying to get my expenses really, really low so I could keep pushing it into long-term investments, right? And that's what young people need to understand. Like the fruits of your labor, they don't come till later on. Don't celebrate too early.
Yeah, don't buy the cars too early.
Don't get the fucking bottle service at Marquee or whatever nightclub you go to. You know what I mean? Like, we're not impressed by that shit. You know what I mean? Like, no one is. Nah. You'll look back and go, fuck, I was an idiot. Why did I do that? Right? 100%. A lot of 25-year-olds now will be looking at this going, shut up, old man. What are you talking about, right? I guarantee, mark my words, in 15 years' time, you'll look back and go, I was a dumbass.
No,
you know what I mean?
We're doing it now. We've done the same thing.
100%. I did it, right? I did it. Like, and it doesn't yield anything for you, right? Maybe in that moment in time, but after 10, 15 years, you will look back and go, fuck, I could have done more, you know?
What I think this chapter touches on is trying to get financially fit. I like to compare it to being physically fit. It requires consistency and discipline. It's the same. If you want to have a nice body and be fit, you got to be consistent and have discipline, right? It's two things, eating well or whatever and going to the gym. It's the same with your money. You got to be disciplined, so don't spend too much all the time, don't blow the money all the time, and consistent. And over time, that's going to turn your earn into stored money, and then you have to learn how to multiply it.
I love that analogy of fitness, right? And we talk about it all the time. And when you think about it, if you're in shape, right, I find personally, it's easier to be in shape than to get in shape.
Oh, massively.
So much easier, right? And I've been in shape I reckon I've been in really good shape for the last 10 years, right? My 20s, I was sort of little bit unhealthy, but I feel like in the last 10 years, I've just been in peak shape. All the time. And I found it's been easy to maintain because I've built up the habits. It was hard in the beginning because it was new to me, right? I had to sacrifice the desserts at night and the junk food that I loved, and I had to go to the gym sometimes twice a day. That was fucking foreign to me, man.
And long term, you have to keep doing it.
But now, like, I don't have to do it as much, but because I've built the habits, it's actually quite easy for me now. So it's the same with financial habits. If you go out and focus on earning more money and storing as much money as possible and investing that surplus cash, it'll become easy over time to the point where I am still quite frugal because of my old habits, right? Sometimes, like, I do things and I think, why did I do that? Because I've got the money, you know what I mean? But the thing is, it's just this habit. Like, I've got this thing, like, I bring my lunch to work every day. My wife packs my lunch to go to work every day. The same fucking lunch that I used to have when I had no money. 2 boiled eggs, a can of tuna, and a salad and a handful of nuts. Every single day, I still have that same lunch because of the habit. And I think to myself, I could go out for lunch every day, right? But I did that for like 15 years. And people would look at that and go, fuck, that's boring. Fuck, that's a lot of sacrifice. Like, that's too much, Zah. It's not too much for me because it's fucking normal.
It's become normal. Yeah.
And anything else beyond that is a luxury for me, right? And this is where people need to understand, just like the fitness analogy, if you train 6-7 hours a week in the gym very, very intensely for 10 years straight, right? It becomes normal. But if you don't go to the gym, right, and you haven't been to the gym for the last 2-3 years, and then all of a sudden I tell you to go on that workout program, you would die, right? Like, you wouldn't be able to do it. So I think baby steps into this when you're younger, but instill those habits early.
Yeah, it's the only way it's going to build momentum, really, and it's momentum and then maintaining the momentum. And I think that chapter really kills it, man.
That's a good one. I enjoyed writing that chapter.
I thought you'd enjoy writing this chapter. Why property?
Yeah, well, this is probably one of the most favourite ones, right? It's why property, right? Why property over any other asset class? And we get so many people arguing, like, shares and stocks and cryptocurrencies and art and jewelry. And there's so many different types of assets. And to me, the majority of my wealth is held up in Australian blue chip real estate.
And it's not just because you picked real estate, because you have done many other things with your money, right?
Yes.
You've played in shares, you've played in crypto. We all got burnt in crypto. You've done physical bullion, you've done all those types of things. So it's not like your only experience is with real estate. You've just, over the course of your investing career, you've found that actually real estate holds the most benefits.
Well, one of the biggest keys to why we think it is the best asset class is because of leverage, right? Now, we go back to the previous chapter about earn, right? What do we do when we earn? We pay tax.
Correct.
Now, when we pay tax, there's a benefit. So it's not just going to the ATO, there's a benefit. The banks like it because it shows that you're earning good money, so they want to lend you money, right? Now, we've got this asset class that the banks love to lend on, 80 to 90%, right? So you got to remember, let's just take now, for example, there's so much uncertainty in the market. There's people are saying that there's a mortgage cliff coming, the prices are going to crash, it's unsustainable, all of that sort of thing, right? But we've got to remember, the banks actually own more of the property than people. So, for example, all these people that have mortgages, right, they might have put a 10% deposit down, 20% deposit down. But do you realize the bank owns 80% of your property, which is the majority of the property?
So they hold most of the risk.
So why the fuck would they let it crash to the point where there's foreclosures everywhere? They're not going to let it. Right?
The banks are very powerful organizations and have a vested interest in the property market.
Exactly.
Massive interest.
Exactly. And, Grant Cardone famously said that You go to Bank of America and say, okay, I want to borrow money to buy your stocks. They won't lend it to you. But I want to borrow money to buy some real estate.
Yep.
They'll fall over themselves trying to give you the money.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to remember that the reason why we love property so much, really, at the end of the day, is that $1 is not $1. You're controlling $5, right? So if you've got $1 million in equity, you can put that towards $5 million worth of real estate. Market moves by 10%, you've made $500,000. And that's why we like the returns on real estate. And this is why we say FU property is about holding as much real estate as possible, getting as much exposure to real estate as possible, so that when the returns are there, you've got a $25 million portfolio, goes up by 10%, it's $2.5 million, right? So, use numbers that are relevant to you. But at the end of the day, I'm sure like even at 10 million, right, the market moves by 10%, you've made $1 million. That's enough already to say fuck you, right? So like you need to get to a point where you're exposed to as much real estate as responsibly possible. And then you can enjoy the returns over 10, 20, 30 years. You'll be glad you've done it.
It boils back down to really, the book is going through your process of accumulating wealth. And when it comes to asset classes, property, like you said, has the most leverage. And if we're trying to expand our money, leverage is how you do it. So gold's not going to do it. Gold's a safe haven. Shares don't do it. You can't borrow much. And really shares are a cash flow type dividend income. So really, if you're trying to expand your limited capital, which is what we all start with, limited amount of money, it's going to be property that does it for you. Another good stat I found in the book, sneaky stat you put in there, 80% of the millionaires started with nothing, and 90% of that 80% became millionaires through real estate investing.
So the majority.
So you can just see that people that have actually accumulated a lot of wealth over time have done so pretty much the majority through real estate investing. So you don't have to like go on the latest fad craze of crypto or all this kind of stuff. Just stick to the normal thing that people have done for generations. They've done it.
Go narrow, go deep, Sam. You know what I mean? And this is why we say, there's 3 things that you should really invest in. And if you just focus on these 3 things, and in this order as well, you'll be successful. Invest in yourself. So that can be investing in a skill set, investing into your personal brand, investing into you to make you better in the marketplace, right? Then invest in your career or your business, right? If you've got a career, upskill yourself, invest in trying to get a promotion, all of that sort of thing. Business-wise, obviously, buy more assets within the business, marketing, promotion, all of that sort of thing. And then real assets like real estate. If you just focus on those 3 things, don't worry about all the other stuff, right? Like I had a client come in the other day and said, we're looking at buying some land in Serbia or something like that. And I just said, why? And they go, it's really cheap. And I'm like,
there's a reason it's cheap.
Just focus on getting a pay rise, right? Focus on yourself and focus on Australian real estate. I said to him, rural shit Australian real estate would probably trump that land in Serbia. Nothing against Serbia, but we really do have the land of opportunity here, and it's right under our nose. And a lot of people are overlooking it because they're reading the media and they're thinking, okay, I need to try alternative investments. And I say to them, what the fuck is your alternative, right? I don't understand what else that you're going to be able to do. Each to their own, right? Each to their own. But a well-known developer that I know, he said to me once, because I was having trouble convincing clients at a certain period of time to get into this. It was actually a great project. And he said to me, he goes, what's wrong with these people? It's not rocket science. Just buy the fucking property. And hold it for 10 years.
That's it.
Right? You're buying in a great location. The last 10 years, what does it show in that location? 10, 11% growth, right? So the stats show that if you get 10, 11% growth in 10 years, it doubles, right? So what the fuck is the problem, right? And I thought about it, and it's like, it is that easy.
Is it that easy that people they can't believe it, or they just don't want to do it?
I think what it is, Sam, they're chasing the glitzy, glamorous return on investment.
Serbian
right?
property, foreign property.
Yeah, and
shit.
I get it all the time. Like I actually get a lot of wealthy people who have made a lot of money on their homes, for example, and they've got $10 million homes, but they don't have any other assets, right? So they want to now start diversifying. And I might show them a $1 million house and land package, which, you know, we have actually shown that we've made $1 million in profit in 3 years on one house and land package. Like, it's still a great return, but it's looked at as boring because the industry is quite boring. It is quite vanilla and dry, and the problem is it's not glamorous because these properties are all affordable price points with all affordable priced rentals. They might be in great locations, but you don't get to really show them off and go, hey, look at what I've built. So everybody, what I find when they get into that sort of space, they go, I want to do a really big luxurious development. I want to spend $3 million on a site. I want to spend $3 million on a build. I want to sell each side for $3.5 million. I want to make $1 million, right? And I want to show everyone the renders and all of that sort of thing. Yeah, and look, it's cool. Like it gets you, it's a good ego boost and all of that sort of thing. But is it the highest and best use of your equity or cash that you have? And it could be a great investment, but what are the chances of you putting pen to paper on a $6-7 million project when you've never done one before? All you own is a $10 million home. What is the likelihood of you actually putting pen to paper?
None.
Zero, right? Like, you're going to be too intimidated. But if you go, okay, let's just chip away at this over the next 6-7 years, every 6 to 12 months, we're going to buy a $1 million property. And this is for those people that have capacity to do that. Do you think in 6 to 7 years, they're going to look back and go, oh, I regret that?
No way.
Like, I fucking don't. Right? And this is what I'm trying to tell people. I know it looks boring. I know it's not sexy. I know, like, you don't get an ego boost out of it.
You're not going to show people at the barbecue.
Yeah, like it's sort of like, it's nothing to talk about, right? But it's going to build you wealth.
It works.
It fucking works. And it's funny that you just said that. You go, why don't more people do it, right? Like, it's sort of, well, because it's that easy. Because it's too easy and it's not complex enough. People think that it needs to be complex to get a great return. And that's why a lot of, I guess, property investment firms use so much jargon to their clients, because it wows them.
To sex it up a bit.
Yeah, it wows them, but it's not rocket science.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good saying.
I guess the last point on that that chapter was, property can create a passive income over time. So I get this question a lot about, okay, what do I do with the portfolio when it's built up and all of that sort of thing? Everybody's different. Like, you might sell down some assets and pay down some debt and then live off the rental income. You might have a really good business or a high paying job where you can continue to refinance and just tap into that growth and live off that tax-free growth. Like, everybody's different. Or you might transition into commercial property and do developments if you've got the risk appetite. Like, there are so many options, and I think you can bring it down to one word, is choice. You'd rather have the choice than not have the choice. And that's where they get stuck because they don't know what the exit is. Man, I don't even know what my exit is.
But it's choice. That's the thing.
I've got a choice.
It's an ambiguous thing, but it's still a destination.
Okay, so my goal was always to get to, I guess I'm turning 40 this year, to get to this age where I can go, all right, I've done a lot of foundational stuff. I've got a lot of long-term investments behind me. I'm safe. My family are good in case anything happens to me. Now I can go and make big moves, right? When I say big moves, now I can do the $5, $6, $7 million deals without going, oh, I'm intimidated. Because I've got all of that behind me. Like, that was my goal. I wanted to do bigger moves, right? And if I really wanted to be conservative, maybe I won't make those big moves. Maybe I'll sell down some assets, right? Or I'll just hold and let my properties just grow in value. So there's that choice, right? Now, if I didn't have the portfolio, I'd be sitting here going, I'm stressing.
Well, what it is, the choice is the ability to say F you. It's the point of the book.
That's the whole point.
So that's where you got to.
That's the whole point.
You have the ability to say F you, I'm doing what I want to do.
And look, like I've been kicked in the guts that many times, you know, by corporates, by white collar criminals, throughout my whole time in business. And it's still happening today, but I'm more resilient today because I've got power behind me, right? I don't need to answer to anyone. And this is what we're trying to do for our clients and for our listeners and to our audience. It's to say, hey, build yourself up so you can go F you, right? And go and do what you want in life, right? Like become independent. Have that power to tell people to go get fucked, right? Because we live in a society now where everybody wants to tell you what to do. But if you've got power and you've got money, you've got equity, you've got wealth, you make the fucking rules, right?
I love it. I love it. But you're fighting people stuck in a system that don't want to explore, right?
So, all right, let's keep moving. The FU property portfolio.
All right. Even the President of the United States said, buying property in well-selected areas with prosperous communities adopts the surest and safest path to independence. So even he knew back in the day. So Roosevelt. What is the FU property portfolio? What does it look like?
Well, it's definitely not buying the home.
Yes.
Right? And I mean, it's not...
That's 101.
It's not just buying the home. Like buying a home is not necessarily the worst investment you can make. And we're not against buying the home. One day I might buy the home, right? But the thing is, it's about exposing you to as much real estate as possible.
Yep.
And I think what people fall into a trap of is when they buy the home, right? They buy too much home, and then they're tied down. They get too much of a mortgage, and they can't move. And even if they want to tap into the equity, they're scared, especially now with interest rates so high. They're like, well, my repayment's going to be too much because they're liable for it. So I feel like it's a trap, Sam, right? And this is where we want to educate, especially Sydney clients. If you haven't bought the home yet, please reconsider if you that's what you're thinking about doing, because it can tie you down. And I think, look, at the end of the day, you're not going to be exposed to as much real estate as compared to, you know,
if you did otherwise.
Yeah, like if you buy a home for say $2 million and you've just spent your whole 30 years trying to pay that down.
We know people in that situation and they can't do it, they're handcuffed, really.
You're better off being exposed to more real estate, let's say $5 million worth of real estate, having it cash flow positive, or even if you're at a loss, who gives, you know what I mean? Like just cover the loss. But you've got growth in $5 million worth of property rather than just $2 million.
I think if it doesn't tie you down, the mortgage on the home that you've bought, it's going to definitely slow you down, which is what we see with a lot of people. Buying the first home and living in it's really going to kill your ability to grow. We see it a lot. That's why we didn't do it. So foundational sort of thing is to not buy the home first. Buy it eventually when you've got a lot of stuff behind you to do so more comfortably. But definitely not the first acquisition if you can. And
this chapter talks a lot about our fundamentals, which we've spoken a lot about on our podcast. It just reinstates why we buy brand new over existing, our locations, houses versus townhouses versus apartments. They're all great, right? They all make up an FU property portfolio. You know, forget about the debates of what's better than what. Like we want that diversification. So at the end of your journey of acquiring assets, you'll want to have a good diverse spread of between, you know, maybe 3 or 4 different markets, 3 or 4 different asset types. They're all good. They all serve a purpose, and that's what we talk about in the FU portfolio. The numbers, right? This is where your help came in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
All good. And really, what it is, the numbers chapter, it's sort of getting you to understand where you are, where you want to go, and really when it comes to life, it's all about numbers, and investing is the same. So it's understanding where you are with your numbers, what you want to try and achieve, and then how you get there. So it goes through various different, you know, topics there, especially when it comes to buying the properties and how they're going to work and cash flow and all that kind of stuff.
I tried to make this chapter not too boring, right? Because you were involved in it.
That's why you only let me write a little bit.
Yeah. But hopefully there's some good examples in there. There's also some examples of some developments that I've done as well. So it can show you, okay, what returns you can get when you upgrade to the bigger stuff. Because I really want to inspire people to, this is not just a boring strategy just to give you a $100,000 passive income. Like, if you do have the balls and the courage to do it, like you will be able to do bigger projects further down the line. And I feel like we're in a society now where a lot of younger people want to grow and they want to do big things. So this is going to get you there, right? Like the FU property portfolio allows you to make those moves later on down the track. And I think these numbers are really important for people to get their head around because there's the small deals there that say a $500,000 purchase, but then it goes up into maybe a $3 million, $4 million development project, right? So it shows what's possible. And also I think it's really important to see the growth over time, right? See what the next 10 years looks like. If we go on historical growth rates, you know. So I think that's really important to note. We go over P&I and interest only, what we would recommend. And also a really interesting stat is only 1% of investors have 6 or more properties, which is FU status. FU status is six or more.
So that's the top percent.
It's the top 1% of investors, not the population. So it's only about 19,000 people in the whole country that have FU status. So our job is to try and push that 19,000 to maybe 30,000, 40,000 over the course of our lifetime. And get people into that FU position, right? And this is what that book is going to teach you. So a minimum, Sam, of 6 properties.
And 6 properties sounds like a lot, but I think once you, especially in my case when I started, once you get the first one, you see how it works and the equity that can go up over time, it makes it very easy to get to 6.
And it compounds.
Very easy, yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll get to 6 and you'll just be like, wow, like wasn't that hard.
I'm going for 12.
Right, yeah. But people think FU property portfolio consists of 30 properties, 40 properties, like a lot of these gurus that spruik online, right? But you don't need that, right? Like you just need 5 or 6 really good located assets in growth locations. One of them could even be your home, right? And just hold them. And then that will give you a better life than 99% of property investors. It's amazing. It's not that hard and it's possible, right? Like think about you as a person can probably buy 3 properties on your own, right? Then you get married, and if your wife is working full-time and she's on decent money, she could buy 3 properties in her name, right? Together you've got 6 properties. Like it's not that hard.
It's doable.
It's doable. Yeah. Like people look at 6 properties and go, oh, it's overwhelming. It's not that overwhelming.
That's what the chapter shows you. It shows you have to start obviously small. You can't go to the $1 million place straight away, but there's a path to get there. And that's what that chapter goes through. It's good.
Love it. All right, we won't talk for too much more on that chapter because we need people to educate themselves and read it.
Yes.
All right, pay to play, number 6.
Very good point. So this takes a look at you can't do everything, right? There's only a certain amount of knowledge you'll have, a certain amount of time you'll have, and it really plays on the importance of getting, I would say, a good network behind you, and also using professionals and I guess well-selected ones that are in the same space you want to be playing with, that are going to help you achieve what you want to achieve, right?
And Madonna said this famous quote, be the dumbest person in the room. If you're the smartest, you're in the wrong room.
Very good quote.
Everybody's heard that quote. And, again, I had a client come in yesterday and, we're presenting him a property. It was perfect for him. It really fitted his situation. And then he said at the end, I'm going to take this to my cousin just to see what he thinks.
Who's his cousin?
I go, who the fuck's your cousin? Right? What does he do? Right? Is he better than me? And he's like, he's got his own business and all of that. Has he got property? He's bought one.
Oh.
I said, okay, go talk to your fucking
his
cousin.
House. He's bought his house.
Go talk to your cousin and get advice from him, right? So, what I'm trying to say is, don't go to the fat personal trainer for advice, right? Go to the person who has had success in that area you're looking for. And that goes for legals, that goes for numbers. Like I go to turn to you for numbers, Sam, right? Like I'm not an accountant, I'm not a tax specialist. Like every time I have a query, which is nearly every day, I call you, right? Because you're the expert. And you're the same when it comes to property or anything else, right? So it's amazing how much people put trust into others who haven't achieved what they're trying to set out to do.
Yeah, it's funny because they're willing to outsource, so they're going, okay, cousin, tell me your thoughts, but they're using the
I'll tell you why, Sam. And it goes back to what we called this chapter. That's free advice.
Yes.
which is the most expensive advice because
Yes.
it will cost you further down
Very
the
good.
track. And that's why I said pay to play. Pay the fucking bill, right? Pay it. Like, pay for someone's time. For example, like if you could pay to have lunch with Warren Buffett, and I think people can, would you?
Oh, definitely.
You'd pay for it, right? Like, just pay the bill. Stop being a tight ass. You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't take the advice, at least you got something of value,
Yep.
and you now know which way you want to go, and you know it's come from a credible source, and that person now is liable for what you're about to do because you paid them, right? So you want to pass that liability on. Don't be a tight ass. And I see so many people, they, especially people on fixed incomes, right? They don't have a lot of money to spend, and they don't want to spend money on their advice. They're not used to it. But when you're in business, that's what you got to do, right? You're putting envelopes everywhere. You know what I mean? Because you want the right information. If you've got the right information and knowledge, and you go apply it in the marketplace, man, you're gonna win.
You're gonna win hard. Yeah. And we've seen the reason we talk about this. We've seen a lot of people make the wrong decisions by listening to the wrong people.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. I had a client. They bought a property in a trust instead of another sort of structure, which just goes to show, you need to deal with someone that's doing property investing, if it's the accountant or even a broker. We've had clients get P&I loans that are reaming them at the moment when it's an investment property, when they shouldn't have a P&I loan because that broker didn't know about property investing and how he should be structuring stuff. So this topic or this chapter really
it's free advice.
Well, it's free and it's probably easier for him to do. It's not in the best interest of the person. So you just really have to watch who you deal with, get people that are doing what you're doing and have done what you've done. It's really that simple.
Simple. Let's move. Get into the market now.
We always talk about this. There's never a perfect time. Tony Robbins, your mate, the path to success is to take massive, determined action. So that is buying your first investment property. That's a huge thing to do. So don't sit back, be a little bitch. I just ruined that for the next one, but actually make very big moves and don't look back. Just keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I think people sit on the sidelines for way too long with this one, right? And they think, okay, well, I'll see what happens in 12 months' time. Maybe the market's dropped. Maybe interest rates have dropped. But you're never going to get a perfect set of factors working your way. You're never going to get low interest rates, cheap prices, plenty of stock on the market, no competition from other buyers. Because really, at the end of the day, they're all perfect conditions, right? You're never going to get perfect conditions.
Never.
Like right now, interest rates are high, but prices are pretty good, right? Wait till interest rates start coming down again, and then all of a sudden prices go up. And I was actually talking to my mate who sells luxury vehicles. He said to me, it's all relative, Zah. Like now, I think 12, 18 months ago, we were paying 3.5% on car finance. Now you're paying 8-9%, right? But what he said is you're getting cars that used to be 300 grand, they're now 250.
Yeah, so balanced out.
So it's balanced out, right? It's all relative, right? If you know your numbers. So what we're trying to say is if you're trying to get into the market, don't stall. Just fucking do it. Because in 12, 24 months time, you're going to be glad that you've done it.
And we have to remember, property is a long-term thing. A lot of people get caught up on the short-term, interest rates, all that kind of stuff, where they are right now in work and business.
It's a 30-year game plan.
You're going to buy this thing, you're not hopefully never going to sell it. So don't use short-term things to
Who cares if it goes down in value 5, 10%, right? You're not selling it, right? You're trying to acquire as much as possible. And like most of my properties, I'll keep them forever, right? Like, and I'll pass them down to my kids, or I'll give them to charity, whatever it is. I don't want to sell them, right? So you just want to acquire as much as possible and just hold on for dear life, right?
I had this this thought really, and it's about people trying to choose. Like, oh no, I want to wait. And I was listening to this bloke talk about trying to time the market. And he said you can't because we know, but you can't because everything is database and it's lagged. You're looking backward. So the property market, I think in Sydney, it was at its lowest point, I think in December or something. So that's 7 months ago. They've worked it out. That bottomed out there. So if you're waiting, you can't pick it because it's going to be behind you.
Yeah.
It's always going to be behind you because
you've missed the bottom.
You don't have the stats.
We've actually missed the bottom.
It
started to go back up again. And they're saying it might sort of come back a bit, or I believe it's probably just going to plateau because we've just got no stock on the market. But I feel like this is where the pain is starting right now in terms of those interest rates, because it is lagged, right? These interest rate rises haven't really taken effect until about now.
Yeah.
So, look, you're never going to get perfect conditions. Just get into the market. If you're buying good quality locations, that will always mitigate your risk. But also pay professionals like us to give you the advice and to help you through it, right? Because we've been there. We've been through many upswings, many downturns. We know what it's like. At the end of the day, in 10 years' time, you're always going to look back and, be glad that you got into the market.
Earlier, the better. Yeah.
Last chapter, don't be a bitch. And that's probably what we're trying to tell most clients that come in now, because a lot of people are just trying to find an excuse not to do anything.
Yep.
What I'm finding is that, you'll sign a client on and they'll find any little thing to say, no, I don't want to do it, because they're reading the media, they're listening to other people, and they've got these negative thoughts in their heads about property investment. So what they do is they get all excited when they come and see me. They'll sign maybe a reservation form, but then when it's time to go unconditional on the contract, they turn into a bitch, right? You've got to understand what is the plan, because if you turn into a bitch now, you're basically going to be a bitch for the rest of your life. And that sounds harsh, right? That sounds really, really harsh. And I said that to you when it came to your first property. I said, you turning into a bitch now, Sam, will represent the rest of your fucking life, right? And aren't you glad that you pushed past that? Look at you now. You're almost at FU status, right? Yeah. You're almost there. You're almost there. So, look, I'm incredibly proud of what we've done for you and your family, right? And, for all of our clients as well. So, look, I really enjoyed writing this book, right? And I enjoyed doing this podcast.
It shows in the book.
It's like what we spoke about now, there's loads more in the book. If you're interested in getting a copy, get it today. Like it's getting released on the 1st of August. It's available on Booktopia, Amazon, all major bookstores. It's available worldwide, guys. So hopefully, we get some good sales out of it. All proceeds are going to our family foundation that specialize in building and managing orphan homes in third world countries. It's our way of giving back and saying F you to the Matrix.
Awesome, man. Love it.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
Well done.
See you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.